To join the live chat.
Should be working
so I
now.
can't
Sorry.
join the chat.
Is it back on? Hopefully,
Right.
it's back on at home.
Anybody who is able to comment, can you... oh, thank you, Emma. Emma did post a comment saying that we were working on it. Can someone else now comment to confirm if you can at last hear us?
Yes.
Yay!
So now we need to now we need to redo all that because we got a big audience here. So welcome to. So again, welcome to our 54th live YouTube. And I wonder why we're switching to quarterly.
And I think we need to do audience cam again, Pete, because that was partly for the benefit of Pete and Kerry, and they couldn't hear us.
On it.
There
we go. Back on
there we go. All right.
So to anyone who can't make it, sorry you can't make it, but we'll drink enough to make up for that. And hopefully you'll drink enough at home to enjoy it as well. So my name's Wayne, MD of Brew York.
And I guess that makes me Lee.
So usually if you're watching at home, I'm always on the right, Lee's on the left. But if you're live audience, it's probably going to throw you a little bit today. Oh no, because unless you're in Pete's position, then it still works, doesn't it?
I don't even want to try and get my head around that.
So you've probably seen from the camera, we're in the Brew York Cocktail Lounge in Walmgate tonight. So we haven't been in here for quite a while, actually, because when there's only about 10 people in the live audience, we try to take it upstairs to our tasting room. It feels nice and intimate, whereas it feels nice and intimate in here today because there's that many of you. So thanks for joining us.
It does with this big crowd. Go on, one more time. Oh, I'm never going to bother that.
So it's going to be a shorter tasting session tonight because we want to get back into the tap room and have a few beers and enjoy ourselves. Not that we're not enjoying ourselves right now, but yeah, we're going to try and keep it to about an hour and a half. So 3 beers to taste tonight. We're starting. Oh, so it's your bit, isn't it? I won't jump onto that. What I will tell you though is if you're joining at home or if you're in the audience, we're going to finish the tasting with barrel-aged espresso martini Empress Toncoco. That's not a mouthful. I won't be able to say that later on.
Well done.
Unfortunately, we haven't got any for you guys to taste as the samples, but we do have it behind the bar. I've got mine in to try and warm up. And if you're watching at home, again, get it out the fridge and let it warm up if you're going to drink along with us tonight. It's going to taste much, much better. You'll get the coffee notes and all the other things coming through if it's a little bit warmer. So, yeah.
And Pete, Pete, have you got your mic live? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So given you're in the room, how about you serve us the trouble of doing the next line? What is it we always say at this point?
Well, folks on the internet, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you give this video a like and hey, why don't you subscribe to the YouTube channel as well?
Well done, thank you, Pete.
You definitely unmuted.
You can tell I've not done this for a while.
I did mute you on the studio earlier. You did unmute yourself, didn't you?
Well, that
Just in case.
That worked for.
We can leave you. Yeah, you're on mute.
Oh, God damn it!
We'll leave you off mute. That you just make sure you don't swear.
Yeah, we're doing amazingly well with the audio tonight. So apparently Pete was muted there. Do you want to have another crack?
Sure, second time's a charm. So, folks, if you are enjoying the show so far, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Brew York's YouTube channel.
That was done beautifully cheesily.
So we're just going to keep repeating ourselves all night tonight, by the way. So just if you can't hear us, don't worry, we'll say it again.
What? I was about to say, as always, we're about to taste 4 beers, but we're not. We're about to taste 3 beers. So we're starting out with low alcohol juice Forsyth. So taking our flagship fruited IPA and ripping out the alcohol and seeing if we can get somewhere near to the original. The second beer we're then doing is a beer called Rockstar, and I hesitated there for a specific reason because I've been struggling to say that for the whole month. Rockstar, which is a 6% mango, ginger, and Carolina Reaper ale. So not for the faint-hearted, but spoiler alert, one of my favourite beers that we've ever made. And then we conclude with the beer that Wayne has already told you to get out of your fridges at home. It's the espresso martini version of Empress Toncoco, which has been aged in bourbon barrels.
So a little bit of a disclaimer: when we arrived tonight, Lee had a little pre-show whiskey.
For medicinal purposes. I was starting to develop a sore throat, and there seems to be a lot of things circulating at the minute. So I thought if I have a whiskey, I might nip it in the bed.
and when you look at us on camera with all these drinks lined up, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
The next one's low alcohol. We'll be fine.
We'll try anyway.
Yeah. So as we sample these beers, we'll be talking about the concept behind the beer, the name, anything unique about its production technique, the brand, etc. And then we will also, after each beer, be covering off what we call a specialist subject. I think it's a fairly tried and trusted routine. Now, what we'll be doing after the first beer is talking about highlights of our last month. So things that we've enjoyed, not enjoyed, achievements that have been made, etc. With the second beer, we're throwing it out to you as our live and virtual audience to contribute your questions and grill us as best you might. And then with the third beer, we will be doing our usual wrap-up of the things you can expect in the next month in terms of beers that are coming, events that are coming, etc. Yeah. So I think that's it. And finally, if you want to be in the audience, contact us at info@brewyork.co.uk.
So in 3 months' time, there might be a little event happening in April. So we'll probably do a couple of live videos. So we're going to be at a beer festival around the normal YouTube session time, which is the start of the month. We're up at a beer festival in Scotland on the Saturday. It's in Aberdeen. It's Fierce of organising a beer festival up there. So we'll probably try and do the YouTube on the Friday somewhere, but then we'll also do another live session at the birthday, which is the back end of the month. So I'm sure you guys don't want to hang on for 3 weeks to try your beers. So we'll do two different tasting sessions.
It didn't occur to me. I thought we were brave trying to do a beer festival in April, but in Aberdeen.
It's indoors. It's indoors.
Do you know what temperature? It's just minus 17. It has just been in Aberdeen.
Yeah. But yeah, thankfully it's indoors, so it'll be minus 10.
And I think we're visiting, I don't know if you said it there, we're visiting Vault City en route up there.
Yeah, it's Vault City on the way to do a collab. Yeah, and then definitely doing a collab while we're in Aberdeen with a small brewery called Brew Dog. We're not really.
You like totally wouldn't figure this, would you?
So, but yeah, we'll be busy on a little tour of Scotland, so that's going to be fun. And then we're back for the birthday a couple of weeks later. So, if you haven't got your tickets yet, Pete, what do they do?
Have you already bought those? Was that mine as well?
Folks, if you've not bought your birthday bash tickets already, head on over to the Brew York website, brewyork.co.uk/brewery bash.
So,
this is sounding more and more like a shit radio station.
So we've got quite a bit of news on the birthday that we'll be announcing over the next few weeks to try and build up to the event. And I'm sure if we've had a few beers tonight, we might give a few spoilers away in the tap room later on. And I'm sure you guys won't share that information in the subscriber forum. So yeah, just plaster Lee with whiskey, and he'll tell you it all.
Or just ask me.
So yeah, on the tasting, first up tonight is the low alcohol juice Forsyth, or LA Juice as we called it. So apparently it's 5.2% according to my notes there. I hope it's not. I think it's 0.5%.
Oops.
So if you are relatively new to Brew York, or if you don't drink our signature beers very often, Juice Forsyth's our biggest selling beer we make. It's a tropical fruit IPA. And as we have had quite a lot of success in the last year with Loris, a beer that we really love, our first alcohol-free beer we've brewed in-house, we decided it was time to try it out with one of the popular beers from the signature range. So LA Juice was the first one we tried with that. We wanted to bring the fruity profile of Juice Forsyth into an alcohol-free format. And I tried it for the first time on Wednesday night, and I had it on draft in one of the bars in York, and I was really impressed. I'd heard it was nice because a lot of the guys were trying the underfill cans, but drinking it on draft, it was really impressive. I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. It's very easy drinking, obviously, because it's alcohol free. The body won't be the same as Juice Forsyth. Juice Forsyth has lactose in. It's also got 5% alcohol, so there's more in the substance of the beer. But this has done a really good job of making you forget that there's not that part of the beer in there. So hopefully you guys enjoy it as well.
Yeah, I don't think it has again, further spoiler, I don't think it has the same body. You can't expect that of such a lower alcohol beer. But at the same time, I don't think it feels super thin. The risk is that it's going to end up tasting like carbonated water.
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think it's at that level, so it's somewhere in between.
So typically when we make a beer like Juice Forsyth, the mash temperature, which is the temperature we heat the mash tun to, where we try and extract the sugar from the grain, we typically do that about 65 degrees. So we mash in an alcohol-free beer at a much higher temperature, and in doing so, we stop the wort from being as fermentable. So we've got a high mash temperature, try and get a thick full body as well with a high temperature. And then we've got a Voss yeast. So Voss yeast
Like
strain,
Voss.
which ferments at a higher temperature as well, but it's it's not as efficient. It's not as good as our normal yeast, so it doesn't actually convert much of the sugar to alcohol. And then we use what is it we use to kill the yeast?
We use going back a step. So yeah, we make it massively unfermentable. So there's not a lot of sugar for it to go out in the first place. It then ferments it out. But because with a low alcohol beer, you're kind of exposed. You haven't got the alcohol or a high level of hops there to deter bacterial growth. So in terms of...
Someone's at the door.
Someone's ring doorbell going in the room. So every part of beer is considered low risk, with the exception of low alcohol, where that's considered high risk because you don't have the kind of natural bactericidal properties of hops, and you don't have the alcohol level that deters the growth of bacteria as well.
So that's the major difference in the beer in the production method. And there's other ways that you can achieve alcohol-free beer. They cost significantly more in equipment that we aren't in a position to do, especially for when we only dip our toe in the water. We don't brew that much alcohol-free beer, but thankfully you guys do like what we make, because if you were to park our supermarket sales, so the beers that we sell into supermarkets, of our signature range of products, so our signature range being Audience, Coney, correct, Juice, correct, Tom Coco's Cask, yeah, but that's correct.
Yeah,
We'll give you that.
Yeah.
Maris, yeah.
Maris on cask. Lupuline recently discontinued. but was. Fennec, yeah.
2 lagers. So Golden Eagle and Osprey and Loris. So of that range, the ones that aren't in supermarkets, Loris is actually our biggest selling beer once you take out the supermarket sales in can.
In can.
So it's just quite a big change in the way that people buy, people drink nowadays. So it has been such a growing part of the market for us. So yeah, who knows in the future, we might do even more alcohol-free beer. We might need to invest in some of this equipment. But for now, I think we do a good job with the technique that we use.
Yeah, and I like our relatively low-risk approach. So like Wayne's saying there, the best way to do it is like, if anyone's had Guinness Zero, anyone had that? Yeah. It's good, isn't it? Do you know why it's so good? Because it's Guinness. They made Guinness and they took the alcohol out. That is the only difference. So they spent, on our scale, to have the kind of technology that would be able to do that would be in excess of £100,000. Their level of throughput, Jesus, it's going to be north of $1 million easily. So all they've done is they've made Guinness, they've passed it through a special column that allows everything but the alcohol to go one way and the alcohol the other way. So that's the best way of making low alcohol beer, because it's the exact same thing with the alcohol removed. As Wayne's already said, we don't have that money. There's been a lot of development and a lot of advancement in low alcohol production in recent years. One of the most common methods these days is to take a shit yeast. So something that's not very good at doing its job.
So you that ferment shit. I was like, that's horrible.
No, that would be horrific. So you're taking a set amount of sugar, and then this yeast is just so bad at doing it, it's only going to turn a part of it into alcohol. But then we don't do it that way, because that's really risky. That means you've got sugar in there, and I've just detailed to you how it's a high-risk product, because if something else gets into that beer, well, there's no alcohol to stop it from doing stuff, and there's no hops really to stop it from doing stuff. So something else can start fermenting that sugar, and that's why you have lots of low alcohol popping cans and things, because the sugar's still there, something else gets in, it starts to ferment the remaining sugar, they go pop. So that's why we opted for the third approach, which is, in the first place, you just make something that is massively unfermentable. If the sugar's not there in the first place, then you cannot have these kind of problems of exploding cans. So that's why we mash at 82 degrees. It means that almost none of the sugar is fermentable. It's long-chain sugars. And there being long-chain sugars in there helps the mouthfeel of the beer. Bigger molecules in your beer makes for it tasting thicker. So that's why we adopt that particular approach. Oh, are you on to the second one already?
Well, getting it passed around just in time for the tasting. But speaking of popping cans, standing juice Forsyth. Thankfully, it hasn't popped in a long time, and yeah, we're over that horrible recall last year. But one of the things we have looked at in Juice Forsyth this year is a kind of a forced change to the beer that we brew. So a huge problem with pineapple harvests this last year means that the cost of pineapple itself has gone through the roof. So we've had to look at a recipe redevelopment. So I'm sure when you drink Juice Forsyth, the first thing you don't think of is, wow, that tastes of pineapple. You think that's really tropical, and the pineapple is one element of the tropical flavour. So we've had to develop the recipe, and so it's going to be much more guava going into that beer, guava and mango, and a lot less pineapple. And what in doing so, what we can do is we can keep the price from going up, and we can manage keep brewing that beer, because if we'd have kept pineapple in it, we just wouldn't have been able to keep up with production. So we're having to tweak that. So we're also considering, we're not going to definitely do this, we're also considering a few different things with that beer. And one of them is a tweak to try and replace lactose with something that's more accessible. So it's not about trying to make the beer vegan friendly. We probably will end up with that. But one of the things we want to do is try and make that beer
less allergenic.
So we're going to see how we get on with that. We're not definitely going to do it. We're going to do some trials. We're going to see what we think with the taste, and if we can get the right result and no impact on the flavour, then we might end up removing lactose from Juice Forsyth in 2025. So watch this space. The other thing that we are definitely going to be doing this year, which might be a little bit controversial, which isn't in the notes, is the name of the beer is very likely to change this year. So, does anyone in the audience drink Juice Forsyth regularly? And when you go to the bar, is that how you order it?
What do you ask for?
A friend of mine say Juicy Forsyth.
Juicy Forsyth.
Juicy bonus.
Some people use its full name. So, yeah, I think the most common parlance is pint of juice, please. So we want the future name to be more based around juice. It's not going to be just juice. As it stands,
Could call it just juice.
the front runner is just calling it easy juice.
Oh, yeah.
So that didn't get a great reaction down the front here. But it's off the back of dealing with the likes of supermarket buyers who are telling us that apparently the kids of today have no idea who Bruce Forsyth is. What a shock.
Kids are wrong.
So
Send it to kids.
I know.
Yeah, we shouldn't be selling to kids, that's true. We have been pulled up on that before. So they want a more culturally accessible name for it. And off the back of us saying that we are going to rebrand it, Asda have said they will take it back into their stores nationally. So that's the kind of difference it can make, having a more culturally relevant brand, even though they don't know as yet what it is we're going to do with it.
So yeah, if you can think of any really cool juice puns you want to share with us, and so your prize will be a year's supply of whatever the juice is.
I mean, that would be good, but I think we've had one too many cease and desist as it is. For anyone at home that didn't catch that, the suggestion was juicy fruits, but yeah, Wrigley's would definitely be onto us. Well, let's come back to that. We've been asked about HYG. Let's just say the film that inspired HYG, that was formerly known as Hey You Giles, has its 40th anniversary this year. So, do you think we might do something about that? There you go.
No.
Right. No. No, we thought about it and went, no.
We hate that beer.
So, In fact, on the pineapple, how much do you think the price went up this year? 119%.
Why?
And we forward contract and we buy pineapple puree about, I don't know, 20, 30 tons at a time. And yeah, it went up 119%. It would have added something like £1,000 to every batch of Juice Foresight that we made. And when you do have supermarket listings, you can't go to them and go, do you know what's costing us more? Will you pay us more? Because you know what they're going to do. Yeah, take it out of your end because we ain't paying. So the only way we could keep that at an affordable price, whether it's in supermarket or for you guys, wherever you may purchase it, was we had to drop the pineapple. We simply cannot pay the price that it has now become.
It's people putting it on pizzas.
Yeah. So we should start a campaign, no more pineapple on pizzas. To be fair, I love ham and pineapple pizza, so I don't really support my cooking.
Do one.
I think the audience love ham and pineapple pizzas. Andouille and pineapple is actually really good as well.
Andouille and anything's good, but even I would draw the line at pineapple.
So at this point, we normally talk about the highlights of our last month. So I'll start. It was pretty shit, to be fair. Yeah, unfortunately, I picked up this weird virus that's been going around, and I could tell on Saturday morning before Christmas, I could tell it was coming. I just knew that something was lurking, and I'd pre-booked a holiday for myself and Sal, my partner, from the Monday before Christmas to the Friday. We went up to Leith in Edinburgh, and yeah, I spent a week in a hotel bed, not feeling very well. So yeah, it wasn't much fun, but I did manage a couple of pints of Guinness here and there, and then some pints of extra black, which is Camper Van Brewery's equivalent of a nitro stout, and yeah,
Any good?
that beer's good, yeah, but I couldn't taste bugger all. And I pre-booked my Christmas dinner that we at the hotel. I pre-booked it, and I hadn't eaten for a couple of days, and this is the first meal I had, and I was forcing myself to eat, and I pre-ordered what do you call it? The steak, not steak tartare. What's really nice thin slices of steak? Beef carpaccio. And I looked at it, I was like, oh, how can I stomach beef carpaccio when I haven't eaten for 3 days? But yeah, I tried. And thankfully, Sal made the most of it. She probably enjoyed me not being annoying and taking her to all the craft beer bars and just enjoyed some time on her own. But yeah, she was brilliant and looked after me, and also went out and entertained herself for a bit while I was just lying poorly in bed. So that's my sob story. But I was okay again by New Year's Eve, and I managed a few drinks on New Year's Eve, so can't complain too much.
If I know you'll have made up for
it. I haven't really yet, so maybe that's tonight.
maybe. And any other highlights of the last month since YouTube? Or?
Yeah, so there's been some really, it's been the public reaction to our the news on that we're taking over the Old Grey Mare in Clifton in York has been amazing. So it wasn't really we weren't trying to keep it a secret. We were hoping that a little word of mouth might build a bit of excitement. But I did get a phone call from York Press when I was driving back from it one day, telling us that they were going to tell everybody about it that they'd heard, and it was a bit sooner than we'd have liked to have formally announced it. But in doing so, we just got loads and loads of amazing feedback online. Got the odd Foster's drinker complaining about we're not going to stock that, but in general it was.
And on the York Press, well, if they put TVs in there, I'm definitely not drinking in there.
But yeah, about 95% positive, which was amazing, and lots and lots of contact about it. So that was really exciting.
And I would say, like, I don't think we've talked about this, but in 9 years of operating the business, we've launched lots of things, we've done lots of things. I think this is the biggest reaction I've ever seen to anything that we've done so far.
I think so. The amount of random contact I'm getting at the moment, there's a weird banging going on upstairs. I don't know what it is.
I've heard about the Old Grey Mare.
Yeah, they're cheering up there. We just need to cheer louder than them. So yeah, it's been great, and we've already started the recruitment. We've got a great team coming into there. We've got a great concept going on, and we're hoping, if legals progress well, we'll relaunch Valentine's weekend. But obviously that's subject to all these things happening. So very, very soon. But yeah,
Are we allowed to say who's going to be running it?
no. We've got to do our update on Tuesday first, and then
Oh yeah, sorry.
got to tell our team first.
Oh, yeah, we have our Christmas due on Tuesday, and the amount of times we get told off for telling you lot stuff before we've even told our team. So he's right. We should probably tell them stuff before we tell you. So,
Yeah.
I mean that'll almost certainly happen. But at least we haven't broadcasted it. Right, on to my highlights, the last one. So I think the biggest bit I would have to say is having a real good chunk of time off over Christmas, spending time with my wife, my family, my friends. Managed to squeeze a lot in. It actually did feel like a decent amount of time out. So yeah, it was really good. Really enjoyed that. And I went to see Slipknot in Leeds. So last time we did this, I think, was the night before I went to go and see Slipknot in Leeds, and it was amazing as always. It was different because I didn't know walking into it that all they were going to do was play songs off the first two albums. And I never followed Slipknot in its very earliest days, and I never saw them on those original tours. So that allowed me to have a flavour of what it might have been like back in those days. So from that perspective, it was great, but it did mean that some of my favourite tunes they didn't play. But it doesn't matter because I'll be back, I'll see them again, and I'll see them then. So
they all sound the same.
The only downside of it was, given the choice of drink in Leeds Arena, I was drinking Strongbow Dark fruits at nine goddamn pounds a pint. Yeah. So technically, I was paying £18 an hour because once the gig's on, you don't want to be dissipating to and from the bar. So I was drinking these two pint things at £18 a glass. But anyway, still an amazing night. And the only other thing I put down on my list here is, in the last month, I think I've seen the worst film I've ever seen at the cinema. I'm an unlimited card holder to Cineworld, and I went to Cineworld, at which point I found that my unlimited card had expired. And the film that I'd committed to go and see with Joanna and Liam, I then had to pay £10.99 to see. And even if it had been free, I would have felt ripped off, because Craven the Hunter is quite possibly the shittest film that's ever been made. And I just thought I should share that all with you to save you the pain of ever having to watch it. Usually with a modern film, there is some sort of redeeming characteristic, like, well, the special effects at least. No, there was shit. The whole film was absolute shite. Do not ever watch Craven the Hunter. All right, thank you. That's got to be better, surely.
Barry Norman too.
No, I don't think Barry Norman would have got away with that kind of profanity.
So it's probably about time we got into some alcohol beer. Beery alcohol.
Well, but before that, can we get some opinion on the low alcohol juice? What do we think? Good amount of flavour for low alcohol? What's the mouth feel like? Doesn't feel too thin, too watery? Yep, good? Yep.
So jumping from Empress to... You're illustrating why we do the tasting in a certain order. So you start with the alcohol-free and build your way up. Don't go in reverse.
Hey guys, let's try something visual. Is it a thumbs up, thumbs down, or somewhere in the middle? See a lot of thumbs up there.
We need some red pepper, green peppers next time, because it's hard to see in this.
Oh, nice link. How about some chili peppers?
Red hot chili peppers. Yeah. We do a rebrew of Grainsy Harriet to go with it.
Nice. You got that one. Right, so now we are on to drinking a beer that we've called Ragnarok Star. I honestly have to pause every time to try to... Yeah. And I think I did kind of preface this earlier by saying that this is one of my favourite beers that we made recently. I'm actually now going to tell you the whole truth. I think this is the best beer we made last year. This is absolutely my favourite beer of the last year that we have made. Even better than Beverly Hills Top, yeah. You know I'm a sucker for a West Coast, but I think this offers something a little bit more unique. And all of this comes off the back of a chance encounter at Leeds International Beer Festival. So at Leeds International Beer Festival, we were in one of the little teepee things, and about 2 to 3 bars clockwise from where we were was a brewery called DMC Brewery. They're based out of Leeds. They are one of very few breweries in the world that exclusively make alcoholic ginger beer, and they make incredible beer. So Jez, the founder of the business, is actually a chef by trade. He has worked in many of the best restaurants in Leeds, and I mean the really top-end restaurants. So this guy knows a thing or two about balancing flavours, and he's got a real thing for ginger beer. So he's founded this ginger beer brewery, and he made this beer called Ales from the Crypt. So he's a man after our hearts. He likes a little fun. So he's made this beer called Ales from the Crypt, and it was a pineapple and ginger and Carolina Reaper beer. And I drank this at Leeds International Beer Festival, and despite it being a beer festival, it was the best thing I drank while I was there. I absolutely adored this thing. And it was all really down to the balance he'd got into it. So you got the big fruity pineapple, the kind of heat and depth of the ginger, and then you've got that real powerful heat of the Carolina Reaper, but without it being too overpowering. And bearing in mind that Carolina Reaper is a genetically engineered chili that is 1.5 million Scovilles. Jalapenos are about 2,000. So we're talking about many levels up from what you're typically having on your pizzas and things.
Do you have any blow-ups this time?
Any what?
Blow-ups, like the last time we put hot chili in a beer.
Oh, gee.
Didn't someone give you a sample?
Yeah. So last time we worked with this kind of level of heat of chili, we used a chili extract, which was also about 1.5 million Scovilles. And Roddy, one of our brewers at the time, when we put flavorings into a beer that's near enough finished, we use a form of pressurized keg, a Cornelius keg, and then we prepare that flavoring, and then we pressurize that keg and we fire that flavoring in, and that goes through a small line. And when we did this previous beer, Roddy, not even thinking about it, then used that same line to take the sample from the tank to then give me a sample of the beer to taste. And I tasted it, and my lips just went, and then I had to run for the milk in the kitchen. So that didn't happen with this beer, but then the day after, Ben brought me a glass of Coney to drink. I was like, why is this Coney fucking spicy? Because he hadn't cleaned the glass from the day before, properly from the glass. So I was sampling what's supposed to be our core range hazy IPA, and I was getting Carolina Reaper out of that.
I can just see the team now, like, take me this Coney and then rubbing the rim with the rim.
It won't surprise me. It won't surprise me. But
oh yeah.
I know you put on it. So anyway,
Empress Reaper.
So going back, so they had this beer, Ales from the Crypt. We kind of got along at that point in time. We agreed at some point in the future thereafter we would make a beer together. We then came together in December to create a beer which is very much inspired by the Ales by the Crypt. Rather than pineapple, we went mango. I think we probably explained why we're not working with pineapple. So we went with mango and ginger and Carolina Reaper, and we created a tincture of Carolina Reaper. So you put it into like a white spirit, alcohol, and the reason you do that is because when something's in liquid form, it's much more easier to carefully dose it into something and control that. So Ben, the same Ben, I think, was outside with like triple leg gloves on, big breathing mask on, etc., because you can't mess around with this stuff. Prepping this stuff to then go into vodka, and then we did gradually dose it in. And I think, like what Jez achieved, I think we have hit the balance right. It would be all too easy for the Carolina Reaper to be so overpowering you don't get the other things. But it's there in the same way that I think bitterness in the West Coast is rewarding and it keeps you going back. Mm-hmm. You have that little slurp of bitterness and it's like, oh, that was good, but what's that thing? I better take another sip to wash it away. Yeah, and you keep compounding it. So I think it does the very much same thing.
Yeah. Once you've got the spice and you've got the taste for it, you just want a little bit of liquid to cool your mouth down, which then brings some more spice. You have a little bit more liquid. So it's very Moorish in that sense. And the mango really balances it out as well. So instead of it just being all about the heat, the mango is the refreshing bit, and then the heat kicks back in again. So you don't have another drink.
So and all of us in the brewery have said we absolutely adore this beer. It's one of our favourite beers of the year. I'd say it's my beer of the year, which. What have we now started to call that?
Oh, it's the curse.
It's the kiss of death.
Kiss of death, yeah. As soon as the brewers love a beer, we know that the public will be very love and hate with it. Or not necessarily love and hate. In general, the opinion usually aligns, but the sales are usually difficult because we always really love the difficult to sell beers. Red ales, black IPAs, all that type of stuff. And yeah, funnily enough, Carolina Reaper, ginger, and mango sour isn't the biggest selling beer we've ever made. Yeah. Market it, Pete. Come on.
Folks, if you'd like to try Ragnarok Star, it's available from the Brew York website, brewyork.co.uk/shop.
And we did come to a realization, I think, this week that we launched it at the wrong time. If you're going to do a really weird beer, maybe the week before Christmas is not the idea, especially a fruit-containing one. Maybe that's not the best time to do it. But we've done it. So I think Pete's now got some ideas. He's going to knock us a video up in the next week or two. Try and get some proper Brew York promotion behind us.
And definitely nodded when we suggested he dress as a Viking and then poured the cans over himself. I don't know if he was being serious, but he definitely nodded this morning when we suggested.
But what? I mean, yeah.
Valhalla, yeah, exactly.
I mean, Carolina Reaper pouring that on too. There's definitely bits I wouldn't want it on. But anyway. So what's the verdict in the room on this beer then? Is it Marmite or are we there? Yeah.
Right. So again, guys, thumbs up, thumbs down, or somewhere in between. I've seen a lot of thumbs up there. Sweet. Like and subscribe.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So now comes the point when we throw it out to you guys. So hopefully you've been thinking long and hard about what you want to ask us, what you want to grill us about. So who wants to go first? Oh, yes. I think Emma got her hand up first. So.
No,
you over the mic, Pete?
There's no pressure on yourself there now, Lee, to name every subscriber when they put their hand up.
Oh, I'm totally going to lose at that game.
Well, I'm shit with names, so I'm definitely not winning.
Do you see yourself reinventing your existing beers, trying new different things, or experimenting with new different flavors, or both?
So do we see ourselves? I'm still going to.
You don't have to repeat
the question. Well, it gives me the thinking time, you see. So are we going to reinvent our beers, or?
Like you've done dark fruit juice, Forsyth, or alcohol juice, Forsyth, and the other stuff. Or do you see yourself trying new things?
Right. Okay.
Where do you see yourself going?
I think we're.
Staying with the existing signature range, or creating new stuff?
I think we'll still do a bit of both. We found that certain brands that we do, Tom Coco in particular, you guys seem to love it when we do a variant of that beer, and every different. And there's a lot we can do with that beer, which lends itself pretty well to experimenting. When we've done things with Juice Forsyth, it's not quite worked as well. So the dark fruit Juice Forsyth was pretty popular, but didn't sell very quickly. The alcohol-free, hopefully, will.
It's going all right. The vegan one wasn't a great seller. The kind of double strength one.
Double strength one. Yeah.
That was probably the best seller of them. Probably the highest regarded of them, but still didn't sell as quickly as we would prefer.
So it'll be a bit of both. I think in general, it seems to be that you guys like it when we do something new, and then apart from the odd fan favourite, where if we bring a variant back, it seems to sell well. So we'll still keep revisiting some beers, but it's not going to be a big part of our strategy. We're not going to take all our core range and keep doing loads of variants of it. Yeah. I know quite a few breweries do stuff like that, which works for them, but it's not necessarily what works for us.
Yeah, and I think we perhaps got a little bit carried away last year. we suddenly realised, well, Juice Foresight's our best-selling beer, and it's our best-selling beer by a big margin. Why have we never done any other variant of it? And then we went from not having done any to doing 4 inside a year, which I think in hindsight was too many. So maybe we do a reinterpretation of that again, but maybe we just let a little time.
Yeah, whereas Tom
Go past
Coco, we're on
first.
to about version 47, and it's still all sells. So.
But I think just certain styles lend themselves more to adaptation. If you've got something that's got pineapple, mango, and whatever it's got in it, how much can you layer on top of that? Whereas a stout really does allow you to do a lot of things with it. It can carry a lot across a lot of big flavours. It's harder with pale beer and fruits and so forth. Who's up next? Right, whoever Pete gets to first.
Pete gets his steps in today.
Recently, I had a Jaipur Noir, which was
yeah.
a black IPA version of Jaipur. Have you guys considered maybe doing Black Eagle or something, like a black IPA version?
Anyone in the room want to mention anything about Black Eagle? We've done Black Eagle before, yeah. It's no, great question. So Jaipur is a brand in particular that does very well, does pretty well with these variants. You can't beat a pint of Jaipur cask. Even keg's not as good as the cask version, and some of the
still amazing, but you're right, not as good.
The DDH stuff doesn't always sell or work as well as the original, but there's a lot of fans of Jaipur, so it works really well. I had Jaipur Noir last year. I really loved it, but I don't think it was as loved as I'm just too much of a Jaipur fanboy.
Sorry, how long ago was that? I feel absolutely gutted. I've missed this.
It was about
when was
August,
Jaipur Noir?
September last year, I think. I think it was earlier than that, because I think by the time we got to Leeds International,
it was already out then.
They brought it. It had already gone by the time.
Oh wow!
And that was
right.
September. Because there you go.
I've got dibs on that, Al. Yes.
But we've not done we've done obviously hoppy brown beer before. Brown Eagle.
I think, as we've said many times, there are styles that we like to make and there are styles that we can sell. And I, in particular, am a massive fan of anything that kind of tries to balance malt and hop. So your India IPAs, your black IPAs, your red IPAs, your ambers, all these kind of things. I love those. But unfortunately, they're all the kind of styles that the general populace have fallen out of love with. Everybody's going for the juicy, hazy stuff, or at the very least, the kind of more classically pale APA type stuff. So it's becoming a really difficult sell for anything that's kind of off colour. If it ain't green, it don't sell. That's kind of the way beer's going at the minute, unfortunately.
East Eagle.
Talking about green, you had a couple of green ones lately.
Well, no, we've only done one green one lately, which was Only Noodles, Michael. Yeah.
How did that go?
If it's green, did he say if it's green it sells?
It's It sold pretty well. We probably should have, given it was green and it was entirely meant to sell for Halloween, we should have probably brought it out a little bit sooner than we did. And I think there's a little bit of it kicking about somewhere, but not huge amounts. Put it this way, we wouldn't be worried about doing another green beer. In fact, we'll probably do even dafter colours going forward.
It's difficult when you bring three not similar, but like beers like that at the same time that aren't standard beers, so that none of them were pale ale, stouts or anything. They were three pretty wacky beers, and of the three, that was the least popular. So it was least popular, lowest scored online, and probably in our opinion as well, probably not the nicest of the three. The other two were very, very good. That's, in my opinion, were very, very good. But even some of them are still hanging around. We've got the odd keg. It was like, how have we still got that beer? And we know it'll sell upstairs if we put it on the lines upstairs. But sometimes you don't want a beer to be around that long. It launched at Halloween. It's now January. We don't really want to be pouring a bright red beer. And you guys go, you brought a bright red beer out on Halloween, didn't you?
But that it's entirely a planning thing on our part. We should have realised sooner that we wanted to make it such a big thing, then should have brewed it sooner, should have got it on sale sooner. And had we done that, I don't think we'd be having this conversation.
Yeah, there's a reason we brew our Christmas beers in August, September time. It's such a popular thing for us now that we need to be on top of it. We need to have the beers packaged ready to go, because they'll go into wholesale, they'll go to export, and then they end up on the bars in November, December time. But we have to be so much more organised than that. And Halloween isn't really a thing for beer at the moment, but we want to make it a thing. So we want to be more organised with Halloween so that we can make sure that beer sells, and we do some really cool and funky stuff, but it's gone by the time that Halloween's finished.
We've got to get this comment on camera, the one from Peter Riley. I'll read it out for you guys in the room. What we should do, apparently, is a striped or tartan beer.
The tartan beer will be good. Yeah.
I mean,
We tried it.
we like to be out there, Pete, but even we are not that skilled.
So you got your jogging shoes on, Pete. You're gonna.
Where's your next?
Oh, not too far.
Yeah, you've been let off.
Yeah. So for us residents of Clifton, can you tell us anything about your plans for the Old Grey Mare? What kind of beer range you'll have on? Any events? Anything to get ready?
So plans wise on the Old Grey Mare, make it cozy. I want it to be really warm and welcoming. The team, that's one of the biggest things that they're going to do, is make sure that you guys want to keep going back, come in, enjoy yourself, and want to keep going back. We mentioned online, Yuzu Street Food are going to be in there with us. We're going to have regular live music where we can. We're not going to do it in a way that will annoy the neighbours and be loud, but we're going to make sure it's on, it'll be enjoyable. It's predominantly going to be Brew York beer range, as I'm sure you're not surprised. If you've been to any of our 3 new venues this year, they are pretty much exclusively Brew York. It might not. It'll probably be 90+% Brew York with some guests. There'll be we'll have a can fridge like we do in all the other venues, so you can get your beers a bit closer to home and to take away as well. And yeah, I just right now, especially, just the focus we want it to be warm, welcoming, and cozy. It needs to be your local pub you want to keep going back to. So yeah, we've got some pretty cool ideas there. We just need to roll them out now and implement them, and you guys need to come down and see it for yourself.
And in taking on the Mitre in Knaresborough and taking on the Horse and Farrier in Otley, we are becoming semi-accustomed to running B&Bs.
Inns.
Inns. Yeah, inns. So they will be classified as inns. Apologies.
Yeah.
And the Old Grey Mare has 10 rooms above it. They're going to take a lot of work, and I mean, rewiring, replastering, some floorboards would be nice.
Yeah.
That's the kind of starting point we're working from. So we'll probably do it in phases. So we'll probably try and get 2 or 3 rooms done and online first, and then over time it will eventually have 10 letting rooms. So that side of it's super exciting. But I think the bar part of it alone is going to be incredible. We are so optimistic about what that place is going to be. And then there's the outbuildings and stuff where so much potential, so much we can do with the place.
That's a complete reversal of suburbia pubs, especially in York. I live opposite the Ainsley. It's got completely vacant rooms upstairs. When we moved in the 1970s, it was a local hotel. Landlord says there's too many restrictions nowadays, in doing this, and they gave up. All the pubs gave up doing that then.
Right, well, maybe we have yet to encounter these restrictions. With the Old Grey Mare, we're working with a Grade 2 listed building. That oversimplifying things massively here, but that's mainly about changing exterior appearance and not moving internal walls. So we don't plan to do any of that, but I still think that gives us a lot of scope to make it a lot better than it's been.
Yeah, and one of the things we found with the Horse and Farrier in Otley and the Mitre in Knaresborough in particular, Horse and Farrier more than the other, is that the rooms are very, very popular. So people like to holiday in Otley, and especially during probably 8 of the 12 months of the year, those rooms are pretty much impossible to get on a weekend. We have very good occupancy, and if you've got enough guest rooms that are occupied, your rent's almost paid for. So the pub is then a bonus on top of what's happened in the rooms, and that's where we want to get to with the Old Grey Mare. The rooms will cover the rent and rates, and then the pub, we can do what we really want to do down there rather than being dependent on that to pay the bills. So
yeah.
hopefully.
And if you need to see the demand for that kind of thing, look at the continual program of building of apartments and hotels in York City Centre. There's an obvious need for this stuff. Apparently, there can never be enough.
And
It's
when
probably just a failure of the old regime, you know that. It was.
Yeah, maybe.
And once we, every April when we have our birthday party, we'll have 10 rooms for you all to fight over.
So you can have the premier Brew York experience of waking up in a Brew York venue, having a Brew York breakfast, which may be liquid, and then heading out to a Brew York festival.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 105 a day apparently.
That's it. Think we've got another question over here, guys.
Yeah, go for it.
So can I lobby for something near Wakefield?
Something near Wakefield. We did know a guy called Mark who once had Wakefield Ale Exchange. Do you remember Mark who had Revolutions?
Yeah.
So there's quite a bit of history. There's a lot of art places. There's loads of foodie places. I'm sure you'd fit in nicely.
Loads.
Well, we wouldn't rule it out. We're certainly very focused on the north, so that certainly wouldn't rule out Wakefield. So you never know.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
I think we've got one up.
Wakefield, I was about to say Beverley. It's a long way over here.
Oh, the guys at Checkers, he always has Brew York on, doesn't he? Or does he?
He does.
Yeah.
There's lots of buildings in Beverley that I'm sure would benefit from your expertise.
And you are the second person to suggest Beverly to me today. Have you got a bit of a campaign going? Oh, yeah, sorry. I couldn't see you for this camera thing in the middle.
Oh, where am I looking?
I'm living in Otley for 20 odd years, so it's fantastic.
Oh, nice.
That you're in the horse and farrier after Market Town and everyone that was there, and it does really well. But yeah, Beverley, I think, certainly would be a great benefit to it.
I have family who live in Beverley. I'm sure they'd love me to open a pub there.
It's certainly a nice part of the world. I'm quite happy to be there. Yeah, would be quite happy to be there. Rather.
Can I have a suggestion? Because as you know, we come here every Friday. And a few weeks ago, there was a major snooker tournament just down the road. Mr. Steve Davis was in your bar.
He comes in quite a lot, yeah.
Why don't we do a beer that celebrates that particular tournament? I thought of Pot Black or 147.
Well,
but I'm sure you guys can do much better than that.
The guys who organised the tournament have reached out to us a couple of times to see if we'll work with them on something. But they think we're Heineken, so the numbers they want us to contribute to have an involvement are out of our budget. But they did take Chris, our financial controller, and his wife down for the semi-finals. They gave us some tickets to come down and have a proper chat. So hopefully we will do something with them.
I mean, unbeknownst to us, Chris's wife is a proper fangirl for the snooker, so she was in her element down there. So I guess the guy selling the sponsorship package probably thought we were really into the idea, but yeah. The numbers they were talking are eye-watering numbers. We couldn't possibly commit to any form of sponsorship of anything with those kind of numbers.
But we could do something with them, perhaps beer-wise, to try and help things. And not only did Steve Davis come down, but I don't know if you know, Ronnie O'Sullivan was in here drinking as well. He was very, he didn't want to be on camera, but the guys at the Recycle photoshopped him in front of them. They took a photo with him, and he didn't want to promote anything. So they then photoshopped him in front of their shop and said, "Oh well, cheers for coming down." Oh God!
And Steve Davis is a big supporter. He's come pretty much every year that it has been at the Barbican. I've had my photo at the table at the front left with him. A few years back. In fact, we've had quite a few celebrities in here over the years. The first one we ever had in was
Robert Baratheon.
Yeah, Mark
Addy from Gate.
So Mark Addy.
Is it? And he goes into to Market Tap.
So Mark Addy came in, and we were both like, "Do you think we could approach? Should we approach it?" And eventually, we built up the courage, and we were like, "Really sorry to interrupt, but you're like the first celebrity we've had in here, and we'd love to have a photo." And one of the guys with him went, "I think you'll find I was the first celebrity in here." And still to this day, I have no idea who that guy is.
Recognisable.
But anyway.
I used to live in Poppleton.
Oh, did he? Poppleton?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to.
That's a good place for you next time.
Poppleton. Yeah.
I've got another question over here, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, well, before the question, I'm going to say the Carolina Reaper's really tingling me
Is it?
tingling my lips. It's
Yeah.
really good. So talking about Ton Coco, have you got, well, first of all, was there Espresso Martini? Was that a subscriber idea? Because I know you on one of your chats before you asked for ideas. And have you got any other iterations in the pipeline?
Funny
Right.
you should say.
Well, I don't think we have too much detail around the espresso one because we'll be talking about that when we drink it. It might have been a subscriber idea. I don't remember it being that. We just decided we wanted to do something different this year. We've done barrel interpretations of the beer. We thought it was time that we started adulterating yet further because apparently coconut, tonka, vanilla, and cacao is not enough to ram in there. So we decided we'd see what else we could layer on there. So that's kind of the ambition going forward. And I said I wouldn't talk about it because we're going to do it in a second, but I'm kind of doing it. So we decided that we didn't want to go all in on that. So we've done the barrel aged one where you've still got the option of tasting something where what you're getting is the beer with the barrel character. And then we've done the one where we've adulterated it with something else, which is the coffee. And you'll hear more about that shortly.
And we actually do have a few more up our sleeve, so you don't have to wait a full year until the next Empress iterations. We've got 2 more which we'll release in 6 months' time.
And you will find out about them shortly.
I'll tell you. We're just skipping ahead, aren't we? Just skipping ahead.
We got any more questions in the room?
Loads. So I'm going to head right to the back.
We've also got, when Pete gets back to his computer, he can read a few of the audience, the people at home questions as well.
Yeah, there's a particular one you could share from Captain VFC, who is telling us that he is shit-faced and sleeping.
He might be sat in the audience. We got one from the
So
audience.
you're Captain VFC? Okay. Fair enough. Well, thank you for the share.
All right, guys, got another question over here.
First of all, just to say about the Ragnarok, that was lovely. Do you plan on working more with chilies at all, or are there any other flavors that you can reveal that you're interested in using?
Glenn, one of our packaging manager, was in earlier, and he is obsessed with us making a jalapeno IPA.
Yeah.
So what's it called? Snake Farm.
Snake Farm. So we made a small concession to them last year, where I think we allowed them to take, it was Beverly Hills hop.
Yeah.
We allowed them to take a small part of the Beverly Hills hop and infuse it with jalapenos. And then they served that across the main bar at Hanley Tap. And then they tried to press gang everybody who drank it into giving it a 5-star on Untapped so that they could then convince us to make the beer. And literally every opportunity he is dropping in, you need to make Snake Farm. What should we do next? Snake Farm, Snake Farm. So it's almost like we are at some point going to be bullied into making this jalapeno.
It was, yeah.
It was.
It was a little bit vegetal.
It was good. The flavour was good. I think you got the heat. You got some nice kind of vegetal whatever type of character coming through from the chili, but it's still a Marmite beer. Given we're producing stuff in 4,000 to 5,000 litre quantities at the new site, are you going to find enough people that want to drink that kind of thing? But you all drinking this, so maybe.
I think we've got time for one more question. Who wants to ask one? There we go.
Did Dame Judy try your latest iteration?
Oh, I'd love to give you a romantic story about how she tried it and loved it again, but no, we're not aware that she has, unfortunately. And she's 90-year-old. She's probably got better things to be drinking than craft beer.
Milk, yeah.
Did everyone know about what the original ABV was supposed to be for that beer?
Yeah, well, originally we were going to make it a 9% dipper because it's 90 years, so 9.0. And then we thought, honouring someone who's 90 years old with that is probably not that respectful. So we decided against that and went with the more sessionable 5.2, which is why your first page on the script still said 5.2. So are we done with questions in the room? Have you got any for us online then, Pete?
I'm just having a skeg now. Let's have a look.
So while Pete's having a look,
we'll have a pregnant pause apparently.
Yeah, the next beer up is going to be Espresso Martini Empress Tom Coco. So very selfishly, I've been warming my glass for the last probably 10 minutes. So you probably need to armpit yours.
All right. Well, I might give you a rare victory and go to the loo.
That's what happens.
It's almost like it's still Christmas.
That's the whiskey for you, going straight through. So while Lee's at the loo, then I'll give the guys back home a bit of a preview or a bit of a talk through of what we haven't already said about this beer. So every year since. Pete, do you remember what year it is when we did the
2018?
2018,
yeah.
We first did Empress Tom Coco, which was triannuary beer that we brewed here as an open brew day. Some people in the audience might have actually came down for the brew day. I'm not sure. So we got a few people in the audience who came down. So that was 2018, and since then we brewed it annually and we release it in January every year. And we've been trying to keep things interesting each year, try to do barrel-aged versions. We've been trying to do different types of barrels. And this was the first year we've decided to twist it a little bit and add a bit of flavour into it. So Tom Coco itself doesn't have any sort of flavours. Any additional flavours. It has lots of flavour. The flavour itself comes from the coconut, the cacao, the vanilla, and the tonka. So that's the main components of Tom Coco. Whereas this year we've adulterated it a little bit. So we've taken our barrel-aged version of the beer. So it's aged for at least 12 months in bourbon barrels. And then we've tried to make it like an espresso martini. And when I say we tried to make it like an espresso martini, we've added coffee. We haven't done vodka and stuff like that. We've taken coffee, which it's already a very well flavoured beer anyway. But we took Ben, one of our brewers. He's a big coffee nut. We asked for his expertise. We asked him to share with us what he likes in coffee, and then we sourced some old brown Java coffee, which is one of his favourites. And so we've infused that into the beer as well as the normal different components we put into Tom Coco. And I haven't tasted it, so I'm looking forward to trying it in a second. But hopefully, because of all the other aspects of the beer, it will taste a little bit like an espresso martini. So I don't know if you're familiar. We do use Tom Coco sometimes as a hop tail. So when we're making an espresso martini, instead of the coffee element, we use the beer. We still use vodka and usually Tom Coco rum. But you can make a really cool espresso martini using beer. So let's see what this one tastes like. In the audience, has anyone tried this already?
Yeah.
I think I tasted this in vessel while we were doing the coffee infusion to then approve it for packaging, and I think the coffee's less now than when it was packaged then.
I haven't. This is the first Empress I've tried of any variant this year, so I'm losing my benchmark a bit. It tastes like a barrel-aged Empress. On my first mouthful, I wasn't getting too much coffee. It's kicking in the second one. There's a lot going on in the beer anyway, so it's hard for the coffee to be too prominent, especially when the base beer that was laid down in barrel was Empress Tom Coco. So it didn't have any coffee in when we laid it down in barrel. We've aged it for 12 months. We've then done the coffee infusion once it came back out of barrel. So it's fighting a lot with the barrel flavours that are already in there.
Well, it actually ends up even more complex than that because we age it in a barrel for 6 to 12 months. We then make a fresh batch of the beer and then we blend it because when it's aging in the barrel, all that fresh coconut just kind of dissipates. You lose that kind of character. So we then blend it back with some of the fresh stuff to kind of reinvigorate that. And then on top of that, we've got with this particular one, the coffee infusion. So there's a lot of flavours battling in there to get out. But I think it does lead to a very rounded and quite smooth and stupidly easy drinking 11% beer.
It's yeah. Don't get me wrong. That's kind of a really good beer. And then the more we should probably go and get an espresso martini to drink alongside, shouldn't we? Just given how much you love coffee.
Do you know, I don't mind an espresso martini. I would drink it.
I'll do a side-by-side after the stream to see what you think.
But to blow our own trumpet a little bit, I forgot what caused us to look at it, but we were looking on Untapped at top English-produced imperial milk stouts. So, okay, it's a fairly niche category. And it's kind of what we've made our niche. But if you look at the top English-produced imperial milk stouts, so strong versions of this style of thing, how many of the top 20 do you think are produced by Brew York?
14.
15. Even by trying to flatter us, you understated it. Also top of the milk stout. Oh, well, I guess we know what we're doing with the stouts then. At least the lactose containing ones. Yeah.
You and Jack,
Yeah.
Jack as in
Tartarus.
Tartarus, yeah. Well, I'd like to say he learned everything he knows of us.
He came a good second.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
So the when we laid these down in barrels last year, the different barrels we put it in, it's not just that it is all bourbon, but it's not just the same one. So previously, when we've launched a few of these beers, we've canned specific brands of bourbon, and you can hopefully taste the difference between them. This time we blended them together. So we had Buffalo Trace in there, we had Jim Beam, and we had Heaven Hill. So we laid them down those barrels. We then blended the beers we got back from it. So you still get a little bit of each of those beers, but hopefully it balances out. If any of them were too strong one way or the other, you get a nicer flavour. So it's kind of the kind of how the whiskey world works. But you make an easier drinking beer by blending, as opposed to more specialist beer if we'd have just kept it in the single barrels. But we did do the single barrel. We did the.
So the 3 barrels you described are the ones that we've done as the bourbon one, and then the releases that we've yet to release is there is a plantation rum release that will be coming in June, July sort of time, and then we're going to do probably our biggest step yet for Empress Stone Cocoa, and I can't say it's not entirely motivated by what Tiny Rebel do with theirs. Where we're going full-on pastry sour version. We're doing a s'mores version of barrel-aged Empress Stone Cocoa. And these things are already packaged. We're just not releasing them yet. So the way in which we like to describe this, I always think of it as, the Jolly Green Giant. He's harvested his little peas from the field, and he's freezing them in time. That's how I like to think of what we're doing with barrel-aged beers, because there is such a thing as too much contact with wood. But you don't necessarily want to kind of lay them out all for sale at once, because then it's just not going to sell. So what we do is we package them and we sit on them and we release them later on. So we've packaged these beers at the point at which we consider to be the optimum time for them, but then we will sit on them and you'll have to wait.
And that's we changed that process probably a couple of years back. But when we first started barrel aging beer, it was we want a 12-month bourbon barrel aged stout. Well, you've got to be a little bit more scientific than that. You should do some tasting along the way. And if the beer starts deteriorating, it doesn't always just improve. When you put beer in barrel, it doesn't just get better. There's lots of things that can happen: oxygen contact, wild bacteria. There can be all sorts of stuff spoiling the beer. So just leaving it in wood for an indefinite or predetermined period of time isn't necessarily the best for the beer. So we've moved away from that habit of just doing a pre-prescribed number and then started tasting it. And when we taste it, we know when we think the beer is at its best, and then we lock it in and package it, and then can age it for a little bit longer.
I'll give you a tasting clue. So some people previously would have said to us, "It's nice, tastes like sherry." That means we've done our job badly. That means too much oxygen got in there, and it oxidized the beer. Oxidized beer tastes like cardboard or sherry. That's how they describe it. And it's not like it's not drinkable. You probably are still going to drink it, but it doesn't mean it's at its best. So we now package those things early in that point. And the reason that tends to happen with barrel-aged beer is because it's wood, it leaks. It's very hard to keep it properly sealed. So when the beer vacates, the air goes in. So you end up with oxidized beer.
So there's a question there, how much do we lose? So when it comes to barrel-aged beer, each barrel's, the ones we use are typically 200 to 220 litres in barrel. We'd expect a good yield would be 150, 160 litres coming out of that barrel.
When I'm doing my projections of what I think we're going to get packaged, I think we get about 75% back out of what goes into a barrel. And that doesn't account for every now and again, one of these barrels is going to spoil and you cannot use the contents of it. And what you work to is about 20% of the beer that you put into a barrel is going to come out in a, you don't want to package that, you don't want to drink that kind of state.
Maybe it reminded me of the we had one of the port pipes, which is a huge vessel. What were they, 400 or more?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
So the port pipe spoiled, which is not funny. That's not funny at all because we had like 400 plus litres of barrel. 500 litres.
Over 500 litres.
And it got a nice green furry jacket on it. So we went to do samples. We're like, no one sample in that. And the guys tried, the brewery tried to drain it. But it's a massive container, and they drained half of it because that's where the cork was, and so there's still 200 plus litres left in it, and that's obviously 250 kilograms ish of weight. And we were rushing around to get the birthday ready. We're like, this could be great for weighing down the marquee. So we weighed down the marquee, and then weeks and weeks later, it started filling with rainwater and all sorts. And then someone, I don't know who, was walking around the brewery one day. So, have you tried this? This is the I don't know what they were saying. This is what barrel-aged beer, and someone was passing round samples of this horrible rancid thing. I was like, "Where's that from?" And they were like, "Oh, I don't know." I was like, "Yeah, it tastes all right." No, but people were passing around this weird, Tokyo. Here we go.
No, it genuinely confuses because
no one could work out where it was from.
Well,
but
that barrel's empty. How are you drinking something from a barrel that, as far as we're concerned, has not got anything in? Well, anyway,
yeah, we have there's a way of sealing the barrels. Yeah, we get this putty, and we basically certain leaky putty. Yeah, we end up pushing this putty into all the gaps, and it kind of seals it up if we spring any leaks. But it's very much a reactive thing. If you start getting leaks from the barrels,
best thing you can do is, as soon as the barrel's been finished, used for its previous purpose. So ideally, you'd take it straight from the bourbon guy and you'd pop your beer in. What you would do ordinarily is it's probably sat for a while. So then you're going to put a little bit of hot water in. You're going to rehydrate it. That's going to make it swell. And that means all the kind of staves of wood kind of butt up against each other, and that's supposed to make it watertight. And then once it's swollen like that, you're then able to put the beer in. But that's not foolproof. You think it's sealed, and then you put the beer in, and then you've seen where we store our beers over in the tap room. We then get a message from the tap room manager saying, "Your bloody barrel's pissing all over the floor."
It becomes like liquid tar on the floor as well. It's so hard to remove. So should we talk a little bit about what's coming up next month and some events, and then we'll go on to some questions from the audience and from people at home?
Yeah, do you want to start with? Do you want to start with the beers?
Yeah. So Sam, our export manager, managed to secure us a contract for a beer we brewed last year called Champorado. I don't know if you guys remember that. So Champorado, which became Krampus for the barrel-aged Christmas beer. So she managed to secure us an export order for Champorado, which meant we rebrewed it, and we have that ready to release in a couple of weeks. So it's not a formal release that we'll make a huge song and dance about, but anyone who's a subscriber will get this amazing beer in your box. So bonus.
We also have our latest West Coast.
City of Angles.
City of Angles.
It is Angels, by the way. It's not Angles.
Where I've been asked to go a little bit more sessional this time, so it's 5.5% this time. I know. So yeah, we've done a very nice West Coast IPA coming in at 5.5%, which you'll have next time out.
I love Brew York 2025. Oh, it's just one Brew York, isn't it? I love Brew York. So 2025 version's coming out, which is passion fruit and guava sour, 4.5%. So that'll be out in time for Valentine's Day.
And what was the original idea?
Passion fruit and white chocolate.
Which we floated. So every Friday we meet as a business, and people from sales and production all come together and talk about how the last week's gone in terms of how the sales have gone, how the production's gone, how the packaging's gone, etc. And then we talk about kind of the plans and things. And the idea was floated around the passion fruit white chocolate idea. How did that land?
So not very well. So it showed up on screen, passion fruit white chocolate sour, and everyone was like, "Ooh." So, no, it was vetoed, unfortunately. So if you think that was sounding nice, unfortunately, you're not going to get that.
I like the idea. And so Johnny, our kind of departing head brewer, who I was hoping was going to be here tonight. Go on. It'd be amazing if he walked in like that. So he leaves us in 2-3 weeks' time. So we wanted to give him one last recipe to see what he could do. And he came up with the passion fruit and white chocolate thing, which I'm kind of into because I've drank a lot of daft shit over the years. And I've had a few Scandi and kind of American sours that combine those kind of things. But the sales guys were saying, like, yeah, but Lee, you don't have to sell it.
So maybe we'll see if we can siphon a bit off and do a little bit of a side experiment with some of it, and then test it out. Or suck them all, yeah.
Just saying.
And then finally, the other new beer next month will be the next and possibly final Hop Sessions. Hop Sessions 15. Because we need to go on and do other things. I suspect this one will come back after a hiatus.
Yeah, it's not
for now. It's getting packed, and it's going to be Citra, Eldorado, and Strata this time out. I think that'll be a real good one, actually.
So we've got lots of events coming up. The diary's rapidly filling up after obviously the Christmas break.
And we missed one off here because you said another one earlier.
I know. I'll try and remember. Oh, the first one.
Yes.
So the first one up is very, very soon. It's 7th and 8th of February, Ilkley Beer Festival. So we've got a bar out there this year, which is going to be the first time for us, which is going to be pretty cool. So that's like camera festival, I believe. I'm looking at Melissa like she knows what I'm talking about.
Can neither confirm or deny.
The next one definitely is a camera festival.
The next one definitely is. 12th to the 15th of February, we will be at Magma in Rotherham at the Great British Festival of Winter.
Oh, that's
where we have a bar, and we will also on the Thursday be doing a dedicated tasting event where I propose what we do is a kind of evolution of the stout thing and talk about how it's evolved through the years. And we'll have various different samples of things that we've made that conform to those different stages of evolution.
Like a espresso martini, barrel-aged imperial stout.
Just like your grandfather used to drink.
And then the last one we got, we haven't even got on the list. One that we've got coming up is the Face Festival in Aberdeen, which is 2 weeks before our birthday. I'm not sure what the date is.
I'm pretty sure you said the dates earlier.
I probably did. It was probably on it earlier. I've got a feeling there's a couple more festivals that we haven't actually captured in here yet. Because
12th and 13th of April.
There you go, 12th and 13th of April. I'm almost 100% sure.
I mean, if we go slightly further into April, there's another big one we should maybe mention.
Yeah.
Nah.
So I actually got an email earlier from Beer Heroes in Chester. So their annual festival's coming up, which we're pouring out, and I think that is pretty early in the year. I keep looking at Pete like he's going to know.
Help us out.
What gets all these emails and then tells us the week before, and then we're brilliant, we're at their festival next week. And I'm pretty sure there's one more that I'm missing here.
Is this like normal? Do we usually have this many early in the year?
Oh, May. So real. Well, no. It feels there's a lot of very early festivals this year. Normally, the festival season kicks in after our birthday, so it's good that we've got these things coming up because it gives us an opportunity to get out there, show off some of the new beers we've been brewing, and speak to you guys in your hometowns or cities. So there's lots and lots more coming up. We've got a launch of a bar called the Earl Grey Mare. So if that goes well, then that'll be Valentine's weekend. If it doesn't go quite so well, then it'll be
And
sometime
as
in
we
February.
like to tease you with, we're still working on another one on the outskirts of Leeds. And when we reconvene in 2 years' time, we'll still be working on that one.
So that's our event schedule, or what we've captured of it. There's probably a lot more we haven't told you about, and we'll probably remember next month.
I think we go back to a few more questions before we conclude. Pete, you got any online?
Yeah, we've got a handful online. Let me just dig these out. So let's kick off with this one here from Vince UK, which you'll need to read out.
Good shout.
You said Toncoco is cask. Is that why there hasn't been any cans about for a while? So yeah, that was a conscious decision. And it was partly down to the fact that our infusion technique of Toncoco involves using kind of live coconut that has lactobacillus on it. It's an active bacteria. It continues to do naughty stuff in beer. It means like trying to put a shelf life of like 9 months on a can is kind of difficult. So I'm not saying we won't ever put it in can again, but we've kind of backtracked from that for now, particularly when the supermarket's kind of backed away from stocking it. I think what you're more likely to see these days is us doing reinterpretations of it. So if I'm correct, I think around about March time, we're going to have a new version of Cherry Toncoco. So to remind you about what we said, I think it was last time out, we said that we realized that we've kind of made a bit of a mess of the naming of these things. So the original version of Cherry Toncoco was 9.5%. We didn't call it Imperial. We didn't call it whatever. It was just Cherry Toncoco. It was 9.5%. So what we're going to do now is if we say it's a version of Toncoco, that's the lower ABV version. If we say it's an Imperial version of a thing, that's the mid one. If we say it's the Empress version of the thing, that's the top end one. So when we're talking about Cherry Toncoco, it's the lower end entry. But because we're adding lots of cherry in there, that's going to contribute additional sugar. It's not going to be the typical 4.3 that our existing Toncoco is. I was working on the recipe today, and I think it's going to be about 5.5%. So I still think that lends itself to cask, keg and can. So we're going to do a kind of a threefold release on that one. You'll see that in cask, keg, can, and I think that's around the March time.
And we were only talking a few weeks ago about how do we, even though we're not going to have it permanently like our signature range, how do we get Toncoco into can every now and then for you guys who love it, and we'll find a way to do that. It just poses us a few complications, like Lee said, because not just because of the coconut infusion, but if it's cask only, we can actually brew it in Walmgate with our old infusion, so smaller batches to keep it fresh. If we're brewing it at Osborne, we need to brew a very, very big batch of it. Which
and with cask, we're putting 3 months shelf life on that. So these slower moving bacteria haven't kind of taken hold by that point in time. If we're putting 9 months on a can, we're likely to get reports of it being sour or metallic because of what these bacteria do.
But if the beer is 10 point whatever percent, then the alcohol protects it. So it's not as big of a challenge.
All right. Do you guys want to have a question?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Here is one from our mate Alan.
So Alan Smith has asked us, any chance after all these years to get a Brew York barley wine? Don't think you've ever done one. Alan, that is a brilliant question, which leads me on to something that I'm quite delighted to talk about, which is the appointment of our new head brewer.
Yeah, good.
So our new head brewer is a guy called Davide. He originally was brewing in Italy. He then went and spent time at Fine Ales in Scotland. He then went and worked for Beavertown.
Tempest Project.
He was then part of the Tempest Project at Beavertown. He then went and set up the Rack House Project at Lervig. Yes, this guy has pedigree. So he was like the force behind Rack House. And the big thing that they were known for was Paragon, a barley wine. So, what do you think the first one of? Well, it's not going to be the first thing we'll be asking to brew, but what do you think one of the things that we will be asking Davide to do when he joins us?
Tony.
So very much when we have Davide on the team, we want him to do a barley wine for us. And I missed part of his CV out there. Subsequent to being in Norway, he then went to Ireland, and he's been at a place called Carlo Brewing. I didn't recognise that name, but their big thing is O'Hara's Stout. So I'd heard of that. I hadn't heard of Carlo, but I'd heard of O'Hara's Stout. And they're like about 2 to 3 times the size of Brew York in terms of production output. So we think he has a lot to kind of bring to us in terms of recipe creativity as well as kind of bigger brewing discipline. So we're very excited to have him join the team in, I think it's only a matter of weeks now, 2-3 weeks.
And the barley wine will be called Plausible Deniability, because we actually have brought a barley wine out before called Plausible Deniability. It was a long time ago. It was probably 2017, was it?
Yeah, and there's a reason we called it Plausible Deniability. Easy for me to say. Because it was a dipper that had gone past its best.
It is good. It was, what was that? It was the Vocation collab, Snake.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Yeah. No, sellout juice.
Sellout juice, yeah.
And we brewed a batch of a triple IPA, and we jokingly called it sellout juice because back then, back in 2017, we had beers in Tesco and Asda, which was just unheard of in the craft brewing scene, and Vocation had a lot of beer in supermarkets, and people were always making digs about being sellouts for having a beer in a supermarket. Whereas you fast forward to now, and it's kind of very much the normal. And when we came up with the beer and the idea, and we brewed it, the guys from Vocation were like, "Oh, I don't think the name will go down well. I don't think Tesco's will like that, and I don't think we can actually launch that beer." No, it's too late. We've already brewed it, we packaged it, and we've got literally all the cans bought and labelled. And because of these challenges, we ended up with a lot of stock of it in keg that we couldn't shift. So we kept it and keg aged it, and then the barley wine was born, and it was great. I loved it. It was, if you look on Untappd, it's probably really highly rated, but it was great.
Yeah. What else we got, Pete?
So we've got one more, not quite a question, but more of a shout out. So I'll throw it over to you, Lee.
Right, you all need to get involved in this one. So could we all give a big shout out to Pete Riley for his birthday? Pause. Pete needs to get the camera going.
Wait for it. There we go.
Are we good? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Peter. Happy birthday to you.
See, I said it was a shout out to Pete.
So hopefully that hits the mark, Kelly. Have we got any
You're
final
welcome.
questions in the room? Or are we all just going to the bar? Mel, what have we got?
Yeah.
Ugh.
We'll talk about the barrel aged one. I heard somewhere recently that Bourbon was now going to be able to reuse their barrels. Is that going to affect your barrel aging program, ability to get barrels?
Sustainability.
So, right, we need to give a little bit of history to this. So, traditionally, what has happened is the bourbon industry in the US is only allowed to use virgin oak. So that means every time they want to put a beer in wood, someone has to make a new barrel. It gets used that one time, and then they can't reuse it. And the nice kind of reciprocal relationship has existed with the Scottish whiskey industry, where they are not allowed to use virgin oak. Whatever barrel they put their whiskey into has to have been used for a previous purpose. So you've got this big influx of bourbon barrels coming into Scotland and wherever else in the world for these purposes. But now they've finally decided, and it's probably the right decision to be fair, is that's incredibly wasteful. How many trees are we knocking down to make this happen? So they've decided maybe you could use these barrels more than once. maybe that won't make that much of a difference. So this constant flow of barrels out of the US into Scotland and elsewhere in the world is now going to be restricted, and quite possibly restricted in a big way. So there's going to be less of that coming across. So demand supply economics, that means the price will go up. They will be harder to acquire. But from our perspective, from the beer industry and barrel aging perspective, we've kind of backed away from that quite a bit. Our government did that to us through taxation. So we can't do as much of this anyway. So we were probably at our peak looking at maybe 1 barrel aged beer every month. We're now looking at like 1 a quarter.
Yeah. It's massively stifled what we wanted to do with that. Never say never. We've got someone coming in with the not the expertise, because we've got some pretty good expertise ourselves, but with the specialism that it'd be good to have a little side project going on, that we start building up our barrel age project again. But yeah, the demand wasn't there, because every time we looked at doing it, the tax we were paying on you guys were paying effectively, because it ultimately gets passed on to the consumer. It just coming disproportionate. You're not going to enjoy a 12% beer as much when it's the price we have to charge now versus a 7-8% beer that's going to taste almost as good, but it's almost half the price. So we changed our approach to this, and hopefully there'll be a way we can do more of it again in the future. Little tax loophole or something we can find.
I think when we kind of discussed at the time when these sorts of changes were happening, we were saying about basically overnight it added about £2 to a can of barrel aged beer, and that's a lot. Yeah. And it's not going to put people entirely off, but they're not going to purchase them as often. Not when you're talking about £2 down a can. There's certain people out there that don't want to pay £2 for a can, let alone have an inflation of £2 on a can. So yeah, it does have a big bearing on the market. So we simply cannot do as much of that unless there is a major tax change in the UK again, which you can't foresee happening.
So we pretty much need to wrap up now, because we need to get back to it next door. So if there's one more question, maybe.
Who wants the final question? You having it?
Relating to the use of the barrels. After it's been used for spirits on a number of occasions, how many times can you actually reuse that barrel for beer?
How many times can you reuse a barrel after it's originally had spirit in it to then do beer?
There's no legal limit on it. So we could use it as many times as you want.
So the first time you use it, you get a very strong spirit character coming over, and it can transfer very quickly. Certainly within 3 to 6 months, you've got good transference of flavour. If you reuse that barrel, you still get a good amount of that spirit character coming over, but you're going to have to leave it sat in there longer. If you go beyond 2 times, it's still kind of nice, but it's very muted in character. So we never use a barrel more than twice.
And then it becomes a nice bit of furniture.
Yeah.
One of the things that we were really impressed with when we went to see our friends Amundsen across in Norway was the barrel program was amazing. Anyway, you go into rooms.
It's the colour coding, wasn't it?
And you were like, oh, what are those colour sprays on the barrels? And they're like, oh, it indicates the use. So if it's been used once, it's got a green spray on it. If it's got twice, it's a green and a pink spray. And then after that, it
was more than that. So it'd have coloured dots. So it might go pink, yellow, green, which would mean it's been used 3 times, and the colours would indicate the different types of things it got used for. So the first time was a straight up one, the second time it was a pastry one, or whatever these things might have been. So they had their own colour coding system for how they'd been used. And their barrel aging thing, at our peak we had 200 barrels maybe. They dwarf that.
Yeah.
Considerably dwarf that.
So
we don't have remotely near that now.
Well, hopefully we'll get one day, but it depends on the taxation system in the UK. But on that note, I think we're going to wrap up, and we're going to go back into the tap room and enjoy a few more beers. So huge thank you for everyone who's travelled down today for the
And before we go offline, I think we need to acknowledge the last 54 months where we've done this monthly, and we want to. I wasn't doing that element for applause. I was doing that to acknowledge all of you that have supported us month after month through that period, to get us to this point, and I hope you understand why we're now going to Corsley. It's done, I hope, what it needed to do through that period, and yeah, we're as emotional about this as you guys are, trust us. So thank you, looking forward to having some more beers with you after this.